going on, dudes and dudettes? So yes, Caleb Williams, the incoming quarterback for USC, was recently on Good Morning America, which is kind of surprising, but I guess once again it was another area he could show off that he's a part owner of that grooming or nailing company that he kind of is partnering up for his mother. So that's pretty cool. I know he was showing off his painted fingernails. I don't have a problem with it. I kind of think there's something else going on, which is going to be pretty cool for USC, but I'll get to that when that time comes. But yeah, overall, pretty cool to see a USC quarterback on there talking other stuff than football, so that's pretty big for him. Then Makai Lemon, the freshman, I think he's going to be coming in next season, not this season coming up, 2023, but he is a wide receiver. He's most likely going to play that at USC, but he got invited to the Polynesian Bowl and he accepted it. I mean, most of these top athletes are accepting to the Polynesian Bowl because you get to spend a week in Hawaii, so might as well, compared to like going to Texas for the All-American Bowl, or I think the Under Armour Bowl is in Florida, so might as well just go to Hawaii. It's a lot cooler, so congrats to him. Then also USC had 5 players that recently entered the draft or put their names up. 5 players were invited to the NFL Combine, which I believe starts in early March. So among those guys, running back Keontae Ingram, who was a transfer from Texas, so good thing that he's going to get a look at because he wasn't in the Senior Bowl. And then both the Drakes, Drake Jackson, the Centennial defensive end, got invited, and also Drake London, the top wide receiver / tight end, who's considered a top 10 overall player, which is cool that he was invited because it most likely mean that he is healthy enough to go out there and compete. Hopefully, it's been about 5 to 6 months by then, so hopefully his injury is officially healed up. Also, Chris Steele, one of the top defensive backs from St. John Bosco, got invited, so hopefully he gets a nice look. And then also Isaac Taylor Stewart from San Diego. So yes, hopefully these guys will get their chances, get their footage out there for all the teams to see. Go into those, little meetings that they have with all the teams separately, so that'll be pretty cool. Then also, I kind of have to go back on this, where I had mentioned in the last video or two where I called head coach Lincoln Riley of USC a hypocrite because he was saying he didn't take OU players and is like doing all this. He mostly took the staff. He didn't take players, because when I look back on it, he really only took the quarterback, a top wide receiver, and a cornerback on defense. Technically only 3 players. Yes, he took quite a few staff members, but overall, when you get a new coach, you're gonna have to change staffs anyways. So overall, it's not that bad of a thing that he did. He did take one of the more polarizing and top players out there in the quarterback, Caleb Williams, but he did not steal Oklahoma players. Let's just get that straight, so I had to retract that. Then Duke played last night. I believe it was last night. They played Clemson on the road, and they got that victory 82-64. The freshman Trevor Keel stepped up. I think he had 20 plus points, and then he also had a double-double with rebounds, and he didn't have any turnovers, which is like the 6th time in all of Duke's history that a player has ever done that. So it's pretty cool for him. Luckily, he did step up because Boncaro didn't really play well for some reason. He hasn't been playing well in the past couple games. AJ Griffin didn't really do much, but it is a quick turnaround as well because they play Boston College at Boston College tomorrow on Saturday. So hopefully they get that victory, but we'll see. All these rescheduled games were placed when they already have 2 games that week, which didn't make sense. But last week they only had 2 games. I don't know what the hell's going on. And then Gary Trent Jr., another ex-Duke player in the NBA, of course should have been on the Lakers if they listen to me, but he did have I believe this is a new career high for him in points. He had 42 last night against the Houston Rockets, who also has a good USC player on their team, Kevin Porter Jr., who went for 30 points as well. They had a nice battle, but Toronto won that game, and Gary Trent put up quite a few good stats with Fred VanVleet out. So once again, showing why the heck did Portland get rid of him, because he's a really good offensive player and could pick it up when one of your top guys is out. So we'll see how the rest of his season goes. I know the Lakers were trying to get him in a trade, but there's no way Toronto was going to give up for whatever type of players the Lakers were going to give up. Then Kendrick Nunn, yes, one of these players that has been in trade talks, and it's kind of weird that the Lakers are even putting him in there because he hasn't even played one real minute for the Lakers at all this season. So, and we did find out, I believe it was Pelinka or Vogel, they once again updated saying that he will not be back until late March. So once again, it was early March, now it's late March. I don't understand what's up with this dude. I mean, he was a pretty okay player for the Miami Heat. I just don't know why they wanted to sign him, especially to the type of contract that they did, a 2-year deal. I think it was $5 million each year to a guy who had this injury that I don't know when it popped up because he wasn't hurt last year, to my knowledge, at the end of the season. So we had to deal with that. Then one of USC's older players, who's a player that it wasn't around when I started being a fan of USC, but apparently has been elected into the NFL Hall of Fame, Tony Boselli, an offensive lineman. I think he played with the Jaguars mostly, but yeah, congrats to him. Very cool. Another Trojan in the Hall of Fame. And speaking of Duke, yes, a couple players who were in most of the trades yesterday at the trade deadline. A lot of Duke players got moved. Marvin Bagley III, who with the number 2 overall pick in his class, he's finally going to get a new start somewhere else because Sacramento sucks, of course, and he's going to Detroit. So that should be pretty interesting for him because they do have some minutes for him over there. So I'm really happy for him. Then Vernon Carey Jr. went from Charlotte to Washington. Hasn't really played much for Charlotte. I don't know if he's really going to get much playing time in Washington either because they have some good low post guys there as well. So I don't know. We'll see how his future goes. Then Seth Curry was involved in the bigger trade that happened yesterday for Ben Simmons and James Harden between Philly and Brooklyn. But Curry is going from Philly to Brooklyn with Simmons. So should be interesting. I think his chances are better winning the title in Brooklyn, in my opinion. So good luck to him. And then lastly, Rodney Hood, who was with Milwaukee, was recently traded to the Clippers the other day as well. So good luck to him. I know there's probably minutes available with both Kawhi and Paul George out. So good luck to those guys. Then the Anaheim Ducks added an ex-defensive player to their front office as an advisor. So it was Scott Niedermayer. He's one of the guys who I've known for quite a bit because I've been a Ducks fan since I was little. So I saw him play a bit. He was there when they won the championship in I think it was 2007 that year. And yeah, so it's good that they're bringing back some of these older guys who were with the franchise, be able to help them out in the future. So definitely happy for him. Then the Chargers added a passing game specialist in Tom Arth. I believe he came from that same John Carroll Division III school that Brandon Staley first started when he wanted to go into coaching. Apparently he's been good enough that they tried to get him on the staff last year, but I don't know what had happened officially. But now he's there officially, so we'll see what magic he can bring for Justin Herbert. But overall, not that big of a hire. Then USC had a pretty tough game against Pacific, which really shouldn't have been a tough game for one of the last ones of non-conference at home, but it was. But they did end up getting that victory, 74-68. The freshman Harrison Hornery, yes, that is correct. His last name is Hornery, a good Carlos last name joke. But yes, he did step up. He hasn't been playing much at all, maybe a handful of shots throughout the whole entire year. And then when USC was struggling, he hit a couple threes off the bench and stayed in for most of the game and really helped out the floor spacing as well for them. So hopefully he gets another look. I know they have UCLA actually, tomorrow night. So that should be fun. See who's the winner of the crosstown rival. Hopefully it's USC, because if not, I'll get crap from my uncle on Sunday. So we'll see. Then, yes, excuse me. I had to make sure all my notes were correct for this one because it's a lot about the Lakers. Because, yes, they were pretty much being pressured, whether it's by players on the team. Kind of figured out that this isn't the correct roster that they're working with, or the coaches or other upper level management to say that they needed to make a trade yesterday. Overall, there was really nothing out there that was going to help the Lakers benefit, whether it was this season or in the near future. And one of the bigger things was that they didn't want to lose that 2027 first round pick. And I know it's in the way future, as I mentioned, but once again, I think Anthony Davis's contract will be up before then. So you don't know how he's going to be, and he will be in his 30s already. LeBron probably won't even be on the team, so it could be a valuable pick if both those guys aren't on the team and the Lakers end up sucking. So you don't want to give that up for a question mark, kind of like how everyone pretty much said that day yesterday that John Wall trade from Houston was still pretty much available for the Lakers, but Houston kept calling up saying you have to include that first round pick. And then the Lakers are like, well, if we do, then can you include Christian Wood? And that kind of stopped the presses, because Christian Wood is another one of the better players, better players on Houston's roster. And Houston didn't want to give him up. They wanted to give up like a guy like Daniel Theis, who is an okay bench center, but he's not worth the amount of money he's getting paid right now. And I think he's on for a couple years. They kind of want to save the books open for 2023 offseason, not this offseason, but the following, to go after another big player to add to their big three or whatever the heck they'll have by then. But yeah, overall, it was just a mess. Like, you kept hearing like a bunch of things going on. Like, I even ended up reading about their first round pick coming up this summer, actually, where they had already traded it. I want to say, yeah, this was the trade when they made with the Pelicans. This was the first year where it's going to go to them. But over the summer, last summer, the Pelicans traded that pick to the Grizzlies. And for some reason now, I think because they traded a pick that wasn't theirs, the protections on it or whatever, the deal that was on it is off now. So now the Grizzlies are only able to send that pick if the Lakers finish in like the bottom 10 in the draft. So if they get lotteried to a top 10 overall pick, then I think it goes to New Orleans so they can give it to the Grizzlies. But if they're outside of that top 10, I believe the Lakers get to keep that pick, which is pretty big because they could also go after someone else this offseason right before the trade. Right before the draft, and get someone else. That I know they've been wanting to package Russell Westbrook and 2 future first round picks over this summer, if that's what they have to do. But they probably won't have to do that and, risk their future if they just include this 2022 pick they can have. But they also have to finish with a better record and kind of be in those last play-in spots for the playoffs, because if you're a team that's really bad numbers wise when it comes to wins and losses, then you're most likely going to get picked very high. But of course, the NBA could also make them somehow, even though it's a lottery, get picked in the top 10, even though they were probably like the 15th or 16th worst record wise team that's not in the playoffs. So I don't know, could be very interesting, but I did read that, which was pretty nice. And then Rob Pelinka, the GM, pretty much is defending his idea of no trades, especially the fact that you weren't going to get anybody good, which is correct. I'm glad, because usually he's made really big moves and they've been questionable, and he's made a lot of smaller moves too, which have been questionable, but I'm kind of glad he kind of stayed put and didn't do anything. So that's a little bit of a victory. Then even like there was a trade, I think it was in the middle of the night, Wednesday going into Thursday, that a lot of people were reporting that the Lakers were going to get Alec Burks and Cam Reddish, an ex-Duke player, from the New York Knicks, but they had to add a third team in, which I believe was Toronto, but Toronto and New York couldn't really figure out their draft picks that they were going to send to each other. So that kind of went away, which sucked because I really liked the idea of having Cam Reddish on the Lakers, and they only would have had to give up, I believe, Talen Horton-Tucker and a couple second-round picks to get a guy who was selected in the first round, and a lot of people believed was better than both Zion and RJ Barrett coming out of that draft. So there's a missed opportunity. Maybe they could get him in the offseason this year, this offseason, but I don't know. For some reason, he's not playing in New York, which makes no sense. Why make a trade for him from Atlanta if you're not going to play him? But also, like, even there was a trade that the Lakers might have traded with the Boston Celtics, which I had never seen before. But I think that was for like a Josh Richardson who's on their team and the Lakers' first round pick. But of course, they didn't want to give it up. And then there was something like Dennis Schroeder, who was an ex-Laker last year, who's on the Celtics, who was going to be involved. And luckily, they did not do that. And he got traded, I believe, to Houston, where he might get bought out. Could be a free agent in a couple weeks and could end up on the Lakers anyways, because obviously Frank Vogel liked him more than he's liking Russell Westbrook. So we'll see how that drama goes. But yeah, pretty crazy. Then to end off with some miscellaneous news. Yes, the Book of Boba Fett. I doubt most of my people here that watch this video are watching that series. But overall, it ended this last Wednesday. It was pretty good season, not great. I don't know why they allowed Robert Rodriguez of like Spy Kids and Sin City fame to sort of take the hold of this series for some reason. I know he directed maybe 1 or 2 of the Mandalorian episodes, but that was more controlled because Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni kind of were able to steward him of what he could and could not do. And for some reason, they allowed him to have I think he directed 3 to 4 of the 7 episodes, and some of those were pretty much clunkers. The last one was a lot better, but it's kind of hard to end like a series like that badly. Wasn't great. It wasn't a great ending, but it was still unfulfilled, I would like to say. Even like one of his more recent directing movies, Alita Battle Angel. I kind of like that movie, but I think it was more because of the input that James Cameron, the producer, put in there, who directed Avatar and Titanic. I would have preferred if Cameron directed it, but overall, I think Rodriguez kind of held himself back, which helped, but also because he was in control, hurt the process of that movie as well. But overall, I'd still say go check out Book of Boba Fett. Wasn't that bad. It's a step down from the Mandalorian series, but I don't know. We'll get season 3 of Mandalorian, and then Obi-Wan will come in May as well, that series. So definitely looking forward to that. Then New Found Glory actually celebrated the other day this week 20-year anniversary of their Sticks and Stones record, which is pretty crazy because that was definitely one of the first better rock albums I have ever heard in my life, with one of the better songs, My Friends Over You, on it. Sunny is a great song if you're feeling down and missing someone that you have lost to death. But yeah, overall that record is pretty awesome, and even ending with a song like The Story So Far is pretty cool too. Yeah, there's a lot of bangers, as they say, on that record, so definitely pretty crazy that it's been 20 years. Hopefully they do some type of reunion concert thing, because I know they've been doing that a lot recently with all their other albums, so that would be pretty cool. So yeah, thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.